And it says, "Not everyone who calls out to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven. Only those who actually do the will of my Father in heaven will enter. On judgment day, many will say to me, 'Lord, Lord, we prophesied in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and performed many miracles in your name.' But I will reply, 'I never knew you. Get away from me, you who break God's laws.'" We're good.
I really don't know what that means. I should probably Google that one, man.
You should probably look it up. I think we're a little slangish getting into the beginning of this podcast there, Captain.
All right.
You have to watch it just a little bit. But, man, hey, welcome back. We're live, Mr. Divin.
Gosh dang. Here we are again, man.
What a week.
Dude, it has been a incredible week.
It has.
Incredibly long. Incredibly great. There's a whole bunch of other Incredibles that just aren't coming to mind, but it's been dang incredible.
Yeah, I think incredible is a great word for it.
Incredibly tired.
Yeah, oh, man. So
catching up on sleep this entire week, dude.
Man, for those of y'all that listened to last episode, we ran out to Georgia, or those of y'all that didn't listen to it as well, but ran out to Georgia to run that 3-7 Project Trail Race, and we'll get into that here in just a little bit. But, man, we covered 32 hours of driving from Thursday evening, starting about 8 p.m., to Sunday morning about 10 a.m., 32 hours.
32 hours of driving in 24 hours. Check out that math.
I don't think that adds up at all. But we'll take it.
I'm just kidding, man. It's been a long week, but it's been good.
We're still a little delusional over here.
No, we were not speeding, folks.
No speeding at all. Didn't break any traffic laws. Didn't hit any curbs.
Dude, genuinely though, like considering it was 32 hours, right? It didn't really feel like that. Like obviously, you get a little tied up in the car and everything, and you get, whatever, but it didn't seem like we were in there for 16 hours each direction.
No, it really didn't. I mean, we had a really good shift going. I think we switched every 4 hours on the way.
Yeah.
Now, of course, there was a leg of about 3 hours that was Divine to Westphalia and Westphalia to Divine, so Dad wasn't involved in that switch. But yeah, it was it was just a good experience. It's weird that you can go and drive 32 hours in that short of a period of time and come back feeling refreshed. Like, it's kind of odd to me. I don't know about you.
Mentally and spiritually, yes.
You saying you weren't physically refreshed?
Dude, the recovery on the backside of that, I think, was prolonged from being cramped up in a car just like immediately after that run.
Oh, yeah.
But it was good, man. Genuinely, I mean, it was I don't know, man. I think it was just a experience that turned out to be so much more than we thought it would have been, just going into it originally.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more than I can say here and put into words, man. I know that Dad got the same kind of experience out of it, and all three of us walked away with just an awesome and new respect for the 3-7 guys, but also for our little group of people. It was nice. We usually have a huge race group, and not to put anybody in that group down or to alienate ourselves from them, but, man, it was nice to just go and have three people competing and kind of fending for themselves in ways. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all guys were a huge help once y'all's races were over, helping me get around and crewing me a little bit too. But just being able to kind of do your own thing, rely on yourself, and just go out and run a race, man. No big hoorah around it or anything like that. Just go.
Just getting out and doing the dang thing. And, again, I truly love all the individuals that we have surrounding us and our crew and everything like that. But, when it was just us three, man, I mean, we were able to get into some pretty in-depth, deep conversations and just really continue building the relationship that we have. And, it was just a super, super tight knit just trip just in general. And I mean, obviously, you and I are close, and your dad and you. I mean, obviously y'all are close too, but the relationship between your dad and I is pretty special too. I mean, he married Kendall and I for.
It's very true.
I mean, we have a pretty dang close relationship as well. So I don't know, man. Just getting out and being able to get down the road and enjoy and experience and just being that same mindset and space the entire time is just pretty dang cool.
Yeah.
It's just a nice step back, and I don't know, you just get to truly enjoy it. So,
and I couldn't agree with you more. Now, one thing you did say is that the road to recovery was a little tough for us over here, and that's a good little segue into our recovery partner over here.
Axis Recovery.
That's right. Over in Conroe, Texas, over here. Or over there, I should say.
Over there.
Man.
We ain't over there
in them old piney woods.
Yeah, we ain't about that.
However, I wish we were. I'll tell you the truth, because coming into the backside of this race, having some Normatec boots, which you loaned me yours, so thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
But coming out of this and having them Normatec boots, having that cold plunge opportunity, having that sauna work, man, some of that stretching and rolling, and the expertise, of course, of such a talented team over there at Axis would have been something I know I could have highly benefited from, and maybe you as well there, sir.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, dude. I don't know, man. I mean, just the recovery game in general. It's something that we've consistently talked about just pretty dang often. Recovery now to us is just so much higher on that prioritization list that we got. And, whenever you got professionals like we have at Axis Recovery, it's just a game changer, dude. And I mean, there ain't no better place to go do it than over there in their spot.
Yeah, state-of-the-art facilities, commercial-grade equipment. And, man, they're out there supporting the communities as well. They were out at Rocky Raccoon, 100 and 50-miler, both weekends, putting in some work, helping some runners get recovered and get around the course, and just being kind of a light out there in a place that can get kind of dark. I know the conditions were pretty rough out there, and I imagine people went to some spots mentally that were pretty dark. But you got them big old boys like Chris Barnes and Kyle out there yelling at you. It gets you motivated to get up and get back around that track, man.
Oh, yeah. Have a Clydesdale chasing after you.
That's
pretty scary.
It is, man. Thunder and hooves over there. But no, y'all go check out Axis Recovery and mention that Next in Line Development sent you by, and you'll get 10% off of your visit. And, man, you'll get to enjoy amazing recovery and just an awesome community and group of people.
Yeah. No, go out there and freaking take advantage of it. So,
yeah.
Hard to beat.
Amen. And, man, you've probably seen them on our social media. If you haven't, you should go ahead and give us a follow on social media. That's Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. It's at Next in Line Development on all three of those platforms. Also, at Next in Line Development on YouTube as well. We post a lot of our content there. Looking to get some more short-term stuff out as far as shorts and reels and more informative and kind of just quick action stuff out too here.
Yeah, absolutely. And some highlights of just our runs and workouts. I mean, we do still lift as well. So we got a lot of stuff going on that we're looking forward to just sharing with everybody. And again, this is a community, man. Like, we're trying to get some engagement from y'all. I mean, share everything that you're doing with us too. I mean, we know we ain't the only ones out there and getting after it. So
yeah, if you're putting in the work, we want to see it. We want to be part of it. If you got an event that you're running, you got something you're getting involved in, and you think there's a way we can help you out or support you in some kind of way, give us a shout. Reach out, shoot us a DM. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. And again, this is all about the community, and we're just trying to grow it. And so if you do get anything from this, don't be afraid to get out there and share it with everybody else. So,
amen. Man, I want to take a deep dive into 3 of 7 trail race and what it was like for you and my experience as well. I wish we had Mr. Billy Pitts here with us, Billy Joggins.
Old Billy Joggins.
Recap.
We're going to get him on here, man.
Yeah, but
the crowd needs him.
Yeah, they do, man. Motivating. But before we get into that, I do think we need to take a second and recognize a couple people that ran the old Outlaw 100 over in Oklahoma this past weekend.
We do, man. There's some pretty dang awesome folks out there getting after it. That is our good friend Dan and our other good friend Ashley. They're both out there on the trail just hammering it down.
Yeah, they did. Dan Gilliam, Ashley Force, she went out there. Both of them knocked out the 100-mile distance. I know I was keeping up with Ashley's story on Facebook and Instagram, so I was kind of watching, seeing how it goes, and, man, it sounded like it was a tough race. And
Dude, you know what I loved about that, though? Is, like, the transparency of it, right? Because I feel like a lot of times, you know, just in general, people always post, like, hey, we're out here, we're doing the dang thing, everything is going good, and all you're seeing is the good. But just how true and transparent she was on her stories, I mean, like, that's what it's all about right there.
I couldn't agree more. And a lot of times you catch the crew running the social media side of things, and they're videoing the runner coming in, and the runner's all in high spirits because they're right there with the crew and just crunk and excited. And you're exactly right. She was out on the trail with a selfie going, filming herself, and just letting us know how it was, man. It was cool to see that side. But
and I mean, even then too, you know, just to speak of the community that is of the ultra world for the most part, right? There were people at the aid station that ended up giving her their clothes to help her get through the rest of that race. I don't know if you caught that.
I did not catch that. That's awesome, man.
Yep. I mean, if that doesn't show, you know, what this community is about, I mean, I don't know what else will. But I'll tell you, I mean, it's pretty dang special getting to be a part of this again. So.
Man, I couldn't agree more, and I think it's going to be an awesome thing, and that's what we're shooting for here, man. That's the kind of community we want to have. That's the kind of people we want to be around. So if y'all want to be part of that, let us know. And literally somebody giving Ashley the shirt off their back kind of thing.
Dude, shirt, jacket. I think she had 2 jackets on, maybe a beanie too. Like
that's dope, man.
Legit. She was saying in her story, like, "Hey, these people saw me roughing it out here, and gave me literally the clothes off their back to help her get through the rest of that race." And that's what it's about, dude.
It really is.
So, and I mean, you know, transitioning just a little bit, I mean, we saw the exact same thing out there at 307.
We did. We saw people out there running a race against each other and against themselves and competing. Don't get me wrong. There was some stout competition, but we saw people supporting people out there on the trail. And we saw the 307 Project team, Chad Wright, Chili, Brooke, Blake, Cornbread, all them just out there, man. From the moment we rolled up to the site, just positive, encouraging, smiling, happy to see us, loving being there, and just the most humble and down-to-earth individuals that you could ever have sitting there just being a light out there at that race.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just being truly just so genuine. And, you know, the 307 team, you know, I mean, they're just so, I don't know, man, just like so like true, good, authentic people.
Oh, yeah.
But it wasn't just them out there at this race, but it's literally everybody else is out there too. You know, at events like this, you know, it typically attracts a lot of the same-minded individuals. And, you know, I know that we both got to meet quite a few different people out there, man. And whether they're on the first form team, I'm sorry, dude. Whether they're on the first form team, because they were out there too, to you know, just friends of theirs in the area in general. Like, I mean, you know, I was talking to Caleb and his dad, you know, for a little while there, and I know that you met quite a few different folks out there, and I mean, dude, it was just inspirational, man, truly.
Yeah, it really was, dude. And they call that the body of the 307. And if there was ever a goal for us to strive for, to have a connected group of individuals. And Chad said something on the podcast this past week. He had a group of friends out there with him. He knew over half the people out there. And by the end of it, you can guarantee he knew the rest of them, man. They were there spending time, genuine, honest, just raw and true kind of people. And wanting to build that community and have a group of individuals that are next level when it comes to caring about people, trying their hardest, just trying to complete themselves, as a 3 of 7
Oh yeah,
mission talks about.
dude. And I mean, I don't know if like if you've never been at one of these races, like as a race director, or even over there helping out an aid station or whatever it may be, like shooting photos. Like there's so much stuff going on, but every single person out there, I mean, dude, even their volunteers, they're out there, talking with us, seeing how we're doing, truly getting to know who we are, and I just it speaks volumes for literally everybody that was out there. And I mean, I know that I saw tons of people helping each other out on the trail.
Oh yeah.
There's people helping me. I was helping people. Dude, it was just truly a phenomenal experience, to say the least.
Yeah, and to speak to that, there was one specific event that happened out there that made me kind of really smile and then reflect on it. There was a group of us leaders that were, I say leaders, we were in the top end of the race. I'd hung up there with those guys for a long time, and it was pretty early in the race, and it was competitive still. So we were all pushing each other and running hard and going, and we came around a bend, and there was this gentleman, I guess he was hearing impaired, and he had lost a piece of his hearing aid.
Of his hearing aid, yeah.
Yeah, it was a little clear piece, man. So
Yeah.
it was like looking for a needle in a stack of needles, pretty much out there is what it felt like.
Yeah.
And we didn't end up finding it, but in the middle of a competitive race where there's $500 on the line for the winner, a huge group of us that were towards the front of this thing stopped for a good 5 to 10 minutes and sat there just searching left and right. Nobody was belly aching. Nobody was upset. Nobody was worried about taking off again. We were all just sitting there digging through the gravel, looking for this thing, trying to help this kid out, because everyone there, and there's probably 10 or 12 of us by the time it was said and done looking for this dang thing.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone that was there realized that we were there for something a lot bigger than just trying to go up and win this race or take $500 home or whatever it might be, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and whenever you really think about it, I think the winner came in about 20-something minutes ahead of me, so minutes matter,
Yeah.
But it was bigger than that, and that was the
Oh,
theme of this entire race, in my opinion.
Yeah, man. And I mean, on my side of it, there's people. First, let me backtrack a little bit. One, dude, that's a dang hill that we went up. That was a dang hill, man. We learned what some true elevation was, which was a nice change of pace. It exposed a lot of things and made me realize kind of where I truly stood. Both good and the bad on the training side of things, right?
For sure.
But I mean, man, we're all dying going up that hill.
Yeah.
And you'd see people helping pull each other up. There's a dude walking backwards up the hill that was cramping, needing some water. And, we're all there to help that fella out. And, I mean, it was just, I don't know, man. It's just neat getting to see cool stuff like that. I feel like experiences like that are so valuable, right? Because in our day-to-day life, we have our routines. We wake up, go work out, or you wake up, eat breakfast, head into work, come home, eat dinner, and you do it all over again.
Yeah.
And so the opportunity to see and be a part of stuff like that, unless you're being super, super intentional, doesn't come by often. And so just getting out there and getting to see that, dude, it impacts you on a pretty deep level.
It does. It really does. And it was cool. It was an awesome weekend. And that's what we're really talking about with coming back mentally and emotionally refreshed, man. Just feeling awesome.
Absolutely, dude. I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, I have so many more friends, just, people that we got to meet out there. The connections that we made and stuff that hopefully come down the pipeline in the future just from getting to meet some of these awesome people. I mean, that is life-changing for me, at least.
Yeah, amen. No, I feel the same. And talking to Dad on the way back for, I don't know, about 16 hours or so, we all three of us share that same feeling, I think.
Yeah.
And it just it was a phenomenal event from that standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, since we are talking about the race a little bit, we do have a competitive side as well.
We do. Do you want to break out the course a little bit and explain it? I know you talked about a big old hill, but the logistics of it.
Yeah, man.
We were set times. You could select 4 hours, 6 hours, or 8 hours to run, and you run a 4-mile loop as many times as you can in that time period. And whoever runs the furthest wins. If there's a tie in the distance, it's whoever run that distance fastest.
Yeah,
is the winner. So
what was your goal again? You were shooting for 40 miles?
I was shooting for 40 miles out there, not knowing much about the course, knowing there was a decent hill in there somewhere, but not realizing what it was.
What the true extent of it was.
Correct. What was your goal out there, brother?
Man, so I had a goal of 16 miles or 4 loops out in my 4 hours. So
there you go. And to give you a little bit of info on the hill, folks, what this looked like was essentially you start at this aid station by the lake, and then you run out, and you're on flat for maybe a mile, roughly.
It's a mile. Yeah.
It's rolling hills.
Just shy. Yeah, I mean,
flat for Georgia,
Northwest
Georgia.
It's not like flatland over here, but
no, we can run for days and never find a hill, but yeah, you run about a mile and then you start climbing, and it's about a mile of climbing or so, and then it's about a mile back down, and then kind of flattens out for another mile or so, roughly. So
yeah, I mean, it was all broken down pretty much by miles. I feel like that was pretty spot on.
Yeah.
So I mean, starting off is just easy. You're like, oh, this ain't too bad yet. What's one small little rolling hill right here, right? So we all jet on out of there, man, and dude, that first lap up that sucker was a huge surprise.
Oh yeah, no, it was a shock for me as well. And
absolutely,
you grab I've calculated out on my elevation at least 911 feet up and about 911 back down.
Yeah. So
in the course of 2 miles, you're going 900 up, and then the other 2 miles are the 900 down.
Yeah.
So that's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was I didn't know what to expect, but it got me.
Yeah, I understand completely. Well, I will say lap 2 for me, I'll let you talk more about it too for lap 1, but lap 2 for me was kind of a little bit more peaceful. I don't know if it was worse. Like I was expecting it to be a lot worse than it was for the second time, and I got to the top a lot faster than I expected in there, and it was a kind of a relief in some ways. But
let me ask you this. Did you use your luckies on the first lap?
I broke my trekking poles out the first lap and never put them away.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I kept them the entire time.
Dude,
now,
my first lap, son, I was doubled over, calves burning, lower back burning, hands pushing off of my thighs going up that hill that first time. And I was like, dude, I got some pretty intense leg days in the gym. And going up that sucker once and coming down that dude got me.
Oh yeah. No, I completely understand what you mean, man. We looks like we lost one of the cameras. I think it's your phone over here. But we'll get to that in a second. Yeah, I completely understand, brother. It was kind of an adventure on the first way up, just because I broke out the trekking poles and I was like, okay, I shouldn't have had to do this yet, but hey, we're gonna give it a shot and just see how it goes and everything. And then on the downhill, I wanted to use the trekking poles as an assist as well. And then sure enough, yeah, they just didn't go away. And I saw you found the Lord's trekking poles out there.
I found the all natural trekking poles, dude. I knew going back up that sucker, I was like, I gotta get something to help me. So once I came back around on that after that first loop, man, I was out there and I was on the hunt, man. Straight up on the hunt, just looking, and luckily I found a pole per se, and got on up that sucker and never dropped him after that.
Well, that's man, I I get that. Man, by the time we got done with that race, because like I said, there was the 4, 6, and the 8 hours. So the 4 hour people, everybody started at the same time. The 4 hours timed out, and then the uh, crowdedness of the trail got a lot shorter.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot less people on the course, obviously. And then after a while, the 6 hour faded out, and then the 8 hours were the only ones left. And by the time we were down to just the 8 hours, you could have built a bonfire with all of the limbs and branches that people had broken off or grabbed and turned into trekking poles and left at the top of the hill once they got done climbing that sucker. There's people that would go find branches every single lap, new ones, and get up there and grab them.
No, mine were my best friend. As a matter of fact, I was carrying them to the car whenever we were leaving. It's like, this is gonna be a memory and go up on the wall as a reminder of where I came from, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, nah, it'll be okay. You can leave them here in Georgia.
Left them little boys in Northwest Georgia. Man, maybe they'll be there for you next year when you go back.
Hey, maybe. They're perfect, man. I mean, straight up and down, no kickouts or nothing. They're smooth by the time I was done with them. So
you get you some tape for the top end of them next year, man.
Maybe. So,
well, we talked about the race. We talked about the hill a little bit, the logistics of it all. How did your race go, and did you hit your goal?
Yeah, man. I went into it again. We kind of talked about last time. This was a solid training run for me. My coach and I, we discussed, I was going out there to hit 13 miles. And I don't know if he, purposely put it just over 3 laps, because, I got to hit at least 3 laps for sure. Mm-hmm. But I knew if I'm going to hit 3, then I'm going to come around and there's no reason to not try to hit 4. That's what we're out here to do, kind of see where we're at. Yeah, brother. So I got out there, I hit 4 laps, and I came around 3rd lap. I had just a hair over an hour to hit my 4th lap, and so got on and did the dang thing, dude. I just kept on trucking. There was nothing else to do, so
yeah,
knocked it out. I was pretty dang excited to see where I was and how I was able to perform. Again, I didn't really know where I stood with everything, and we do a bunch of zone 2 training and everything else, and my heart rate, obviously shot up quite a bit going up the hill, but I recovered super well coming on down the backside. Going up, I'd sit in 180s, just like I'm sure quite a few other folks out there. But
100%.
Coming back down and throughout everywhere else on the course, I sit in 150s, 160s. So I really can't complain about that.
No, not at all.
The biggest takeaway for me was, how different it's obvious, but how different it was being on this side of it. I'd come in probably, a quarter of a mile out from the aid station, all right, I need to make sure I have this, this, and this before I leave again. And every single lap, I forgot something. And so it's you get up, you're going, heat of the moment, you're just perfect, I got this and this, good to go. But every time I'd get out there, it's dang, dude, I freaking forgot this or I forgot that. And the biggest thing that I forgot was salt tabs.
Ooh.
Which turned out to be an issue in the 3rd lap. So
catch a few cramps out there or what?
Man, a little bit. My quads were blown, but the teardrop on my right side was cramping pretty solidly. And then I had some growing issues a little bit, but we just kept on going, man. And again, I'm just thankful that I was able to knock out my goal. So I came in at like 3 hours and 56 minutes, I think. So just shy of 4 hours.
Oh, so you were right on the dot pretty much for
Yeah.
getting it done. That's awesome, man.
Long-winded answer, but yeah.
No, that's exactly what I was hoping for, brother. Something to break down how the race was for you and hitting your goal. And
Yeah.
now you talked about the uphills, but what about the downhills? How were the downhills for you? Did they end up being kind of brutal on you at all? Or did they take a toll? You said your quads were cramping. That's usually where that ends up coming from.
Yeah, man. I mean, my quads were blown by lap 2.
Oh, yeah.
By lap 2. But it's kind of one of those things. I mean, I knew I had to take advantage of going downhill because of how much time it was taking to go that second mile. I mean, that second mile is averaging going up the hill about 19, 20 minutes or so.
Sure.
And so coming back down, I was stretching it out a little bit. I stretched it out a little too far on my third lap. I think it was my third lap. And I ended up actually falling. But got up and kept on going. I don't know, man. I mean, it's just one of those things. I feel like there's a lot of people that are hesitant to kind of stretch out. Now, I wasn't moving like you were down those.
Man, I try to be a downhill fiend, man.
You're a downhill freight train is what you were.
We'll talk about that. I paid for it too.
But for the most part, dude, I mean, I just tried to stick to the plan. I was obviously I had to walk up the major hill. I was gonna hammer it down on the downhill as best as I could, and then just making sure I was running the flats where I could as well. And so it panned out for me, and it went better than I expected. So
there you go, man. That's all you can ask for, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then along the way, made some good connections, got some awesome opportunities with some cool people.
Oh yeah, yep. So, but what about you? I mean, what were some of the bigger things that you took away from this race on like the strategic side of things?
Sure, absolutely, man. Well, first and foremost, I missed my goal by one lap.
Mm-hmm.
If I would have hit my goal, would have actually ended up winning the event. Ended up sixth overall, ran the same distance as the winner, but like I said, came in about 20 minutes behind them, and then there was about 4 people between him and myself. So pretty happy with that. I think there was close to roughly 80 people in my event.
Mm-hmm.
So 6 out of 80 is a good feeling with a competitive crowd like that.
Yeah, in an unknown place.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, unknown environment, something we're not used to with that much elevation. Now,
I think I was looking at too. Those fellas that were ahead of you. I mean, I knew that there was a guy from Georgia in there. There was a guy from Missouri in there, and a few others that were kind of more familiar with all the elevation that we don't necessarily have.
For sure. Absolutely. And strategically, I think I've been spending a lot of time at a power line trail over here that's got a lot more elevation. Over the course of about 4 miles or 4.5 miles, you can get 700 feet or so. So it's not terribly uncomparable to what we went through, just
spread out a lot longer.
Correct. Just spread out, a lot more ups and down and rolling hills versus that one big hill climb and then back down. So yeah, got around on that first loop, started out strong, felt good. My heart rate was actually under control for me, which is something that's super, super rare in an event like this. Got out there, felt really good going around that first lap, cruising with people, trying to stick in the pack where I could keep myself on the top end if needed to be, but being smart enough to realize we started going uphill and back off the throttle. Took out the trekking poles, got a feel for the hill the first time around.
Mm-hmm.
Realized again I had to change my mindset of man, holy smokes, I got to go up this hill like to hit my goal 9 more times.
Yeah.
And then realizing to flip that switch and be like, nah, I get to. Somebody owns this hill and it's not me, and I get to borrow it for today. So man, thank the Lord for that.
Yeah. Something interesting that I meant to say earlier too, like that first time we went up, obviously, is a huge shock for all of. I mean, for us at least, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not everybody,
Those
but for us,
yeah.
But each time we went up, it got easier, and I don't know if it's just a mindset thing or if it, coming in the second time, it's like you knew what to expect. Third go around, it's like, all right, we're gonna get up here, we're gonna try and knock it out best we can. And then for me at least, that fourth one is like, dude, this is your last time you're going up this sucker. You're gonna keep on hiking and make the most of it. So.
Yeah, and I will say it was a little bit different for me
Was
going
it?
a little longer.
Okay.
Yeah, it did get easier towards those middle laps, but coming around lap 6 and 7 in there and
I'm
into
sure it
8,
was.
it got a little bit
Yeah.
monotonous. It was. I really had
Were you leaning into your poles a little bit?
lean
Yeah.
into the poles hard and really had to. It was cool because at a couple points, Chad was sitting up on the hill
Yeah.
most of the way up, and he had a bullhorn and he was yelling at all of us and
Oh yeah.
motivating us, and that was awesome.
It was cool.
He even hiked the hill with Dad and
Yeah.
a few other people too. So it was awesome to see that, and that kept you going. But towards the end of this thing, whenever it got a little bit more lonely, the crowd and the field thinned out as races finished. It was a little bit crazy going up that sucker, but just having to keep that mindset and that gratitude approach to things and just be like, man, this is why we came out here. I get to do these hills that I never get to do. Right. So,
Well, and it's funny too. I feel like so often, we train for events. You get out there, you're doing the event, and then you lose sight of like why you're there, while you're in the middle of the suck, right?
oh yeah.
But being able to take a step back and be like, nah, this is why we're here. This is my opportunity to go out there and do everything I can. And I mean, that's just a huge mindset change. It's a big game changer. And I mean, you get so much more out of opportunities like that whenever you're able to take that step back. Like, no, this is literally what I signed up for and what I wanted. So
It is. And man, it's such a reminder that I'm going to have to carry that mindset and that approach going into events like Cocodona too. And the longevity of that is going to be a super challenging thing because it goes from staying present and aware for an 8-hour event to, man, it could easily be 90 to 100 hours of trying to do that come May,
Oh yeah.
So it's going to be a challenge. And that was probably one of the biggest things I took away strategically. Since you asked that question, just the mindset and the approach going into it and a place of gratitude and positivity, man. I think that I've told a few people this, but whenever you're out there and you're struggling, the best way to bring positivity back is to speak positivity into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that is people. That is whatever volunteers you see saying thank you to people. Man, thank y'all so much for being out here and setting this up and helping and organizing this race. Or seeing people running, man, you're doing a great job. Hey, keep going, keep pushing. Hey, we're almost to the top. Just keep grinding. Just come on, stick with me. Let's go.
Yeah, for sure. I experienced a little bit of that too. I mean, there's definitely spots where I was struggling a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But whenever I'd shift the focus from my issues or what I was dealing with to giving encouragement to whoever was next to me or behind me or in front of me, I mean, it instantly like just changes. Then you're able to continue pushing just a little bit further. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And it's cool. Even like, I'm not some kind of guru runner, ultimately experienced guy out there, but it was cool to share some knowledge with people too. Just little tips and tricks for the mental side, like climbing that big old hill. What you can do to help try to get through it a little bit better, put your head down. Don't look at the top of that hill. Focus on where your next step's going.
Yep.
Drive them legs, shorten your strides a little bit, and just focus on the next step.
Yep.
Over and over and over and over. And
so staying present.
Staying very present, yeah.
Staying deliberate.
In the hardest section of that race, right?
Staying patient.
Yeah, doing all of those things well. And
absolutely.
Helping people do that, even the people that were out there doing the 4-hour that had no intention of doing more than just 1 or 2 laps of 4 to 8 miles, which there's people out there to do all kinds of different things, to compete, to go out there and say they were part of that, to go be in the community, right? And realizing that all of those are okay and everybody needs encouragement no matter which one they're doing.
Yeah.
So living in that for me was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And that whenever you put positivity into the world and into the cloud,
usually comes right back to you.
It does, and it feeds you, man, and it did exactly that.
Yeah.
Now, as far as a couple things I was dealing with going into the race, exactly a week before, I had rolled my ankle significantly, and it was jacked up, man. So I didn't run at all that week.
Like to what extent? Like you just kind of rolled it, or is like
no? This is a big strain that stopped me in my tracks running.
Yeah.
Killed my whole weekend, and then made me take about a week off. Should have taken more
days. Yeah.
So yeah, it was a bad one. It's still actually bothering me. I went out and hiked some yesterday, and it was trying to roll on me a couple of times and give me a lot of pain. But I strapped up my shoes, taped up real snug and everything, and towed the line to see how it was going to go. I knew there was a chance I would get a lap in and have to stop, but I was blessed to have the opportunity to keep going. It didn't hurt until lap 3. I was burning down the hill pretty good. Guys, there's different strategies. Everybody, whenever you're running and you're doing hills, it works differently for everybody, what you're strong with. Some people can run up hills like a freaking cheetah.
Goat.
Yeah, like a mountain goat. That's better. And just hammer it up the hills and be up and going.
Effortless.
Yeah. I'm not that guy. I am the grinded out, keep my heart rate down as low as I can, stay steady, control my breathing, and just do what I got to do to get up and over it. Because on the backside, you better get out of my way. I'm flying, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And I know there's some other people that do that too, and there's faster people than me going downhill. But man, I love to move.
Weren't you at like a 5-minute pace coming down that backside?
Yeah, there was a couple times I was in the 5s coming downhill for my miles pace in this 36-mile race, which I love, man. I think it's so fun to be out there in the technical stuff and picking through. And there wasn't a whole lot of roots on this thing, but there was some rocks and there was a lot of leaves on the ground.
I just say I appreciate the faith that you had in yourself to do that. Because there's a few times, man, it's like, okay, yeah, there ain't nobody in front of me. I can stretch it out a little bit. But, dude, I mean, there's leaves everywhere. There's rocks everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And if you weren't careful, I mean, you're going to bust it. And there's almost a drop-off.
Oh, it was.
Coming off that single-track trail coming down, so.
Yeah, it was. And, man, you say the faith I had. I just being a little bit more confident to pick through those things. Because before I started running or trail running or ultra running, that's what I loved. Like, we would go hiking, and I'd just be hauling butt down a hill, and people would be like, stop, you're going to fall. You better be careful. But, man, I realize now as a little kid, I was loving that, and now I'm getting to do it competitively. Now you get
to live it.
Exactly, right? And nobody can tell me no, stop, whatever. So it's an enthusiasm spot, and it's an enjoyment point. I love it, right?
Yeah. So
it's cool to see. And now on the third lap, like I said, it did bite me in the butt pretty good. I rolled my ankle again, got down the hill, kind of, I changed my stride to where landing on my foot in a certain way would cushion it
kinda
to where
ease
it
that
wasn't
pain
hurting.
a little bit.
Exactly, yeah. And I would just switch it up, and I would get down to the bottom of the hill. And once I got there, I sat down, raised my shoe. Sorry, dog's going a little crazy over there if you hear it. But raised my shoelaces up to the top notch to the heel lock, tied it up snug, took a couple Tylenol, and, man, got to work.
Good to go.
Yeah, busted it back out. And luckily my foot, I don't know if it's the healthiest thing in the world, but by the last lap it was just about didn't feel anything on my right side. So I was good to go, back to cruising, going down them hills.
Heck yeah, dude.
Lap 2.
I say that, but
well, yeah, don't know if it's good or bad, but hey, we did it, and it was an awesome experience. It showed me what I was able to push through and recover from in some races at the minimum. You know, coming off of lap 2, had a spot where I almost fell coming down the same kind of hill area. I was actually on the road on a pretty flat spot and open, and
down that gravel road.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And I caught a rock with my foot, a left foot, and there was nothing to catch me going down except my trekking pole jabbed into the ground, stuck under my rib cage, and nailed me, man. I felt like I got shot. But luckily didn't break nothing, didn't hurt nothing.
I bet it made you go upright pretty quick.
It did, man. It stood me right up. It
I wonder why.
Dude, it was rough. But it kept me from, because I was flying down the hill.
Oh, yeah.
So it kept me from eating it bad.
Yeah.
And that was okay. So I didn't have any injuries or lasting stuff from that. Didn't take the tumble, and hey, we fired it back up and got after it, man. Hammered it, and as the race thinned out, it was in my head a little bit more and battling a little bit more. But moving through that event, there was a lot of good factors. The weather wasn't crazy; it was comfortable. It didn't really rain on us. The trail was in good condition. There's a lot of things to be thankful for, and having to remind myself of that. And again, just trying to be the positive light, getting into the aid station up top at the end of every lap, and just being positive, talking to people, making sure I stayed on my nutrition and hydration, and had all my stuff filled up. And And then coming off of a couple of these spots towards the end of it, man, just like I said, speak visibly or audibly speaking out loud to myself climbing the hills, being like, I get to climb this hill.
Yeah.
The last lap, whenever I was going up, I was in so much pain and I was cramping like crazy.
Yeah.
Because I didn't stay on top of my stuff. And I was hammering it a little bit harder than I should have probably for a training run.
Shocker.
Yeah, shocker. Man, I just literally every step I took, I was like, I get to climb this hill. I get to climb this hill. Just over and over. And I probably sounded crazy, but it was doing something for me out there that otherwise I would have struggled a little bit more. I would have probably stopped and taken a couple breaks, but I really didn't. I maybe paused for a step worth of time and then hammered it right back on.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a good feeling. And like I said, came in with about 13 minutes left before time expired. And I knew I wasn't going to get enough time to go out for the last loop to hit 40. So came back in and just shook some hands, celebrated with some people, celebrated with y'all, and cheered some runners in as they came in and spilled that positivity back in. And, man, just amazing event. Amazing people.
Dude, I mean, I don't know, man. There's some incredible people out there on the trails. You know, I was listening to some of their stories and getting to meet some of these different people, man. And I mean, there's a older guy out there that had MS pretty bad.
Trip. Yeah.
And you know, just his story alone is just incredible, man. I mean, I think it's a great example of, you know, if he wanted to, he could take a step back and do nothing. Just be like, yeah, I have this issue, just like many of us do, right? And not do anything. But I mean, dude, he's out there taking advantage of every single opportunity, and he wasn't complaining about it to anybody. Like, he was out there living life and just getting after it.
Yeah, he was a guy. I passed him. I'd tell him, man, you're doing a great job, and he'd spit it right back at me.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He was super positive. Always just a really good light out there on the course, man.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's just one example. I mean, there's just incredible people out there.
Oh yeah, and he ended up doing, I think, finished his 3 loops, got 12 miles in. It was the longest he'd ever hiked or ran.
Yeah.
It was amazing, and man, it was just cool seeing that community as he came in too, just going nuts for him, you know. Man, but yeah, that was a race in a nutshell, man.
Man, it was again just a special moment to get to be a part of. So it's a big blessing. And you know, and on the other side of that too, just getting out of this area and getting to go see just beautiful country. Seeing what God has out there, you know what I mean? I mean,
oh yeah,
just absolutely beautiful going out there and seeing everything out there. It was just it was awesome. So
it genuinely was. It was.
Now Louisiana, a little different, but
them roads alone in Louisiana make me just cringe. All right, but man, here Georgia, I can get behind it, man. I dig Georgia.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Not to mention, we will be trying to franchise Provino's Italian restaurant over here pretty soon. Man, that sucker. Oh, my gosh.
Replacing Sonny's or?
Hey, coming for you, brother. That place is amazing. We've had it twice now. I had it first time I went out, and the tradition of going to this race every single year will be coupled with the tradition of going to Provino's every single year. I guarantee.
Hey, dude, them garlic knots.
Yeah. They
so
slap,
good.
Man. They're so good.
I'll happily eat myself to death on those.
Oh yeah, if there was one of them in the neighborhood over here, I'd probably weigh 235 pounds again. We'd
be back to our old days.
That's right, man. And honestly, quality of life would be all right. I'd be okay with it. Oh man.
Dang, man. Well, I think one of the neatest things out there is, you know, obviously we're all out there pushing ourselves physically. We're all pushing ourselves mentally. But the biggest thing about getting to be out there was being surrounded by so many like-minded individuals that are also walking through this journey with God, this journey with Jesus, and diving into scripture. There's lots of folks out there talking about it. I was talking about it with some different people out there too, man, and it's pretty dang cool.
It was.
It's pretty dang cool, and I was talking to some different people out there about what we're doing, and kind of diving into Matthew 6, Matthew 7, and Matthew 7, man, it is I feel like we say this with literally every chapter, but there's some highlights in here, man, that are just so vital, right?
Yeah.
Right off the bat, judging and hypocrisy.
Yeah, man. You want to talk about areas that are super relevant
Yeah,
in my life,
yeah.
right?
I mean, dude, brother, in everybody's life.
Yeah.
Going right off the bat, judge not, that ye be not judged. For with what judgment ye judge, ye shall be judged, and with what measure ye might, it shall be measured to you again. So essentially, just going in there and saying, obviously, do not judge those, but for how you're judging others is how you will be judged, right?
Oh yeah.
And if that doesn't make you take a step back, then I don't know what will. And there's been many instances, I mean, even in our fresh young walk that we're doing right now, right? And coming off of, that sounded weird.
I was gonna say you're rapping over there or something.
Fresh young walk.
That's right.
This fresh walk that we're in, and even still being surrounded by so many people and things that dive into scripture and God and everything. Like, I still find it, like, how often I'm starting to realize how, like, I'm doing these things, I guess. It's like becoming so apparent. And it kind of dives back into the discussion we had, 2-3 weeks ago. It's like, why do we continue to do these things? But I think, now that we're able to start realizing, or I'm able to start realizing, it's like, oh, hey, this is an area of opportunity. You're continually judging somebody for this by probably a harsh measure, right? And I mean, how would you feel if somebody was doing that to you?
Oh, 100%. No, I think that's exactly right. And I mean, we'll get to it a little bit further with the golden rule and everything like that, but treating others how you want to be treated. And
yeah.
Man, we persecute other people for what we see in them. And some of it, honestly, I mean, in my case as well, there was things, the log in my eye was causing me to be aggressive towards others for their speck, right? We continue on to the other verses where we talk about, and why worry about the speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own? That's verse 3 of chapter 7 here. But being so blinded by that log in my own eye and trying to ignore it so hard, but realizing that I needed to address it, caused me to be more judgmental, more aggressive, and more vigilant in pointing out the flaws in other people and being so critical of others. And that was a realization that smacked me in the face.
I think something that was so relatable to me was I was going through a study on this specific section, and it was saying, those things that you so consistently judge others so harshly on, a lot of times are the exact same flaws that you consistently see in yourself, and you're projecting those out on others.
I can wear that jacket, put on that t-shirt every day of the week, dude.
Whenever, again, man, I mean, I think so much of this is just being able to realize where all of the opportunities are within our walk and in our growth as we go through this, right? It's just being able to realize and see. And I think now that we're able to start seeing these, it makes you conscientious, and you're like, well, dang, here's another area where I can how is it that I can like change my mindset around this? Like, what's something I can do different in this specific situation, or how can I prevent this way of thought just in general?
No, that's a great question to take out of it and try to study on and grow with. And I think one of the dangers of this whole situation too, and reading and studying and listening to a couple different conversations around this specific set of verses here with not judging others. It's the more that we blind ourselves or turn away from our own log, the easier it is for us to ignore it and keep moving down that path to I know I'm shifting gears a little bit, but I just thought of that too. It's really easy. The more time we spend hiding from ourselves and who we are, the bigger that situation, the bigger the story gets, the more things that come into play and are potentially setting you on a course for self-destruction in a lot of ways, right? Or for you to at least have a situation in your life where reconciliation for those things, repentance for those things looks a lot differently and is much more involved and harder than this specific beginning where you could start and fixing your problem early and then addressing others as we're taught in Scripture would be a much less destructive path for that. I guess is what I'm trying to put into perspective or words here. And that was something that hit me really hard and not to jet ahead, but going down to verse 6, you hear it said here, don't waste what is holy on people who are unholy. Don't throw your pearls to pigs. They will trample the pearls, then turn and attack you. And I know it says a little bit different probably in other versions of the Bible, but I mean, to me, that almost sounded like a direct contradiction, right? How am I able to sit here and judge someone else and know who's swine and who's not worthy of wasting my time on, basically, right? And if I'm not going to judge them, but it's more than that, man. It's practicing some discernment and understanding what's open and what hearts are available to it, and putting your efforts forward into a spot where it's really worthwhile to spend that time.
Yeah, precisely. And I think, it doesn't negate the fact of, what our duty is, right, is to continue sharing the gospel, right? But it's using discernment, knowing, when it's falling on deaf ears and, how it is that they take that information, that's not for us to judge, but we are to continue spreading the word. And so,
yeah. Loving everybody regardless of it, but knowing where our time is best spent as well.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Man, moving from there to effective prayer, some pretty important things there. I mean, it's famous area of the Bible whenever you start to talking about things there, the ask, seek, and knock, and going into verse 7 through 10 here, just keep on asking, you will receive what you ask for. Keep on seeking and you will find. Keep on knocking and the door will be open for you. For everyone who asks receives. Everyone who seeks finds, and the people who knock, to everyone who knocks, the door will be opened. And then it talks about giving good gifts and how we're sinful and we give good gifts, and we know how to differentiate between giving a snake instead of a fish or a stone instead of bread. And if we know that and we're evil and sinful people, the Lord is obviously going to be capable of so much more. And that kind of really made me have to take a step back. And I spent a lot of time studying this and pulling from other studies and things like that. And because how many times just sitting here point blank listening to this podcast, there's probably somebody thinking, man, I've asked so many times. I've asked for a sign. I've asked for God to do this in my life. I've asked for Jesus to be present, to reveal himself to me, to give me that sign so I can actually finally come to terms with this and understand and start a relationship with God. And I say that because I was there. I lived that so often, man.
I mean, shoot, man, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't there with certain things now.
Right? Exactly. I mean, still living in that. And you ask and you ask and you ask, and here you're promised that you will receive, right? So it's easy to get caught up in the man, I'm asking, I should be receiving, I'm seeking, I should be finding, I'm knocking, I should just doors that aren't opening. I just keep banging on these doors. But I think that's the importance of those next verses where it says, you parents, if your children ask for a loaf of bread, do you give them a stone instead? Or if they ask for a fish, do you give them a snake? It's so important because it says we'll receive, but it doesn't say what.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't say that we'll get exactly what we're asking for every single time, exactly when we're asking for it. What it does say, however, is that we will receive. That means that the Lord God is a good father. He's a good parent. He's not going to give us something that's going to harm us. If we want something, there was an analogy put into perspective by Kevin Flowers, pastor down here for ACC, and he said, as parents, we want to give our kids what they want, but our kids often want candy for dinner. And as a good parent, we're not going to give them candy for dinner. We're going to give them something nutritionally, valuable, something serving of them, right? Something that they need in order to progress, because we know the difference.
Yeah.
They're asking for food because they're hungry and they have to eat to survive, and we understand that. But we can't give them everything that they need, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, something that stuck out within that section itself was just in verse 7 specifically, is the seeking part. Because I feel like so often we are continually looking for such a huge sign or whatever it may be, and we're looking, but we forget that we also have to be patient within.
I forget that a lot.
Within that season or whatever it is that you're going through, right? And so that's part of it, man. I mean, we all have different seasons and we all have different things that we're looking for, but we don't know what it is that he has lined out for us. And what we're looking for could be a huge detriment to whatever it is that we're trying to get, you know what I mean? And so I don't know, man. For me, it's just making sure that we're being intentional with the process itself of seeking.
Yeah. No, I think that's really important too. And there's a story that kind of highlights this. I've been reading through the Old Testament as well, in the book of Exodus, and Moses dealing with Pharaoh and trying to get his people and all the I don't know why I'm drawing blank on the words
good.
Here, but
you know better than I do.
He's trying to leave the Israelites out of Egypt. That's what I'm trying to say here. And he's trying to lead the Exodus, right? He's trying to get the Pharaoh to release them, and God keeps hardening Pharaoh's heart. So to me, sitting there reading, I'm like, why is God doing that? Mm-hmm. Why is God hardening Pharaoh's heart over and over and over? Wouldn't it just be easier to change Pharaoh's mind and move on, right? The Exodus could happen now rather than after all these plagues, after all these events and things like that. But the truth of the matter is, there's a process, there's a plan, there's something bigger, and there's a point to everything that he does. The plagues and all these huge acts that are done that show God's power and show his ability, and that he is the one true God, and that the Israelites need to be able to leave to worship him, and that Moses is guiding them and he's a speaker that talks to God. That is all so important, because by the time they get to the end and they actually are able to make the Exodus and Pharaoh approves them to leave, actually kicks them out, essentially. They had to go through all that because the Israelites were given things by the Egyptians that helped them go out. They were not harassed by the Egyptians because the Egyptians understood God's plan, God's wrath, God's power. So it was setting up this situation where it checked all of the boxes.
Yeah.
It cleared the path, it cleared the resistance, and it made a way that wasn't going to change or just be easily thrown away, right? Whereas if it would have just been changing the heart, all the Egyptians probably would have been like, well, what the heck? Why is this happening? We can't do that. We're not going to give them anything. We're not going to help anyone. We're not going to be happy with them leaving. Those are the slaves. They're the ones that build everything. They're the ones that are helping the society run, right? There was a bigger plan to it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And that struck me that we were studying 7, and I read that at the time, and I was like, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of that too really ties into that next section of the straight and wide gates.
Oh yeah.
For me, we've all heard, narrow is the path to. How's it go? Narrow is the path to.
No,
I don't know, man. My
narrow
mind's blanking.
is the path to salvation, or there's
wide is the gates to hell, or something like that.
yeah,
right?
essentially, right. You can tell we're a little new. Both of us are.
But I mean, it just speaks volumes of like. I don't know. I guess there's two perspectives that I just kind of came to mind just now. So you can look at it as like, well, dang. I mean, I got a narrow, straight, hard path ahead of me, and it's gonna be a dang tough journey, right? Flip side of that though, it's like, I have a clear way. It's not a highway, but it is a clear, concise, precise way of getting to where we're trying to go, which is obviously heaven. And I don't know, man. To me, it's just temptation is in and all around us in everything that we see and do. But as you continually progress and as we continue to walk on this path and this journey, it becomes easier to stay away from all of those negative things and stay truer on that straight and narrow path per se.
I agree. I think there's some really good points that you made there, and I like the perspective that you brought in, and that kind of a double-edged sword that you presented there, right?
I feel like it's always just a dang negative, like, oh, it's a straight and narrow path. Like, ain't no way I'm gonna be able to walk that sucker. You know what I mean?
I feel like it is too, and an analogy popped in my head for this whole thing whenever I read it.
Hit me with it.
And I might bore all of y'all to death. So for those of y'all that don't know,
is this some D&D stuff?
Oh no Dungeons and Dragons here, buddy. But that's a good point. We get into a lot of different things because that's Dungeons and Dragons he's talking about. But this is a cowboy analogy.
That's what I'm talking about.
For those of y'all that don't know, Lane and I met each other because I was a foreman on a ranch. He came in as an intern. He worked cattle with us, cut hay, sprayed pastures. Man, we did a lot of stuff that summer, and it was a really, really awesome experience, and that's where we grew close together, and that's actually where you ended up meeting your wife, and
unknowingly, but yeah,
a lot of tater tot casserole in them days.
A whole lot.
We got to break some of that out here pretty soon.
That would be a perfect post-race meal.
I'm down with it.
We need to make that happen.
Yes, I agree. Back to the analogy before I get too far left field. But
for reminiscing.
All right. So this is what I thought about. Back in the days we were working cattle. So all of the cattle come in to the pens, right? And they're meant to be worked.
Yeah.
And whenever you're pushing cows around, and for those of y'all that don't know anything about cattle, whenever you're pushing cattle around, the easiest way to get them to go someplace is to leave a wide open, easy to get to path. You have a gate that's wide open, and there's a wide open pasture out there that they know about. They came from into the pens. So they see all these different directions, these easy paths, what is seemingly the best thing for them to do for their safety. It's the most comfortable place for them to be. However, as a rancher, God in this scenario, as a rancher, as a caretaker of this herd, the herd is us, by the way, the rancher knows that he must work them through the next gate that leads into the alley, which is a smaller path. And they head up into the alley, into the pan, right there on the back side of the chute. And they're pushed through the chute. And the whole time, they're going narrower and narrower and narrower.
Yeah.
And the rancher, the caretaker, knows that the best path for the cows for a long and healthy life is to go down that chute, to get the vaccines, to get the care, to get everything that they need, to get checked out and make sure that they are good and healthy enough to lead a productive and valuable life. Now, the cow's thinking the whole time, all they want to do is they want to either stay in the pens in the corner or get out of that sucker.
Mm-hmm. As fast as they can.
As fast as they can.
Yep.
But there are some old cows that start to understand the plan, and they start to just move through the chute.
Yep.
Now, there's others that go completely bonkers and jump fences and end up other places, right?
The cell barn.
And that's right. And that was another point I wrote down was they get hung up in these same old pens, and eventually they fight it long enough, and they jump enough gates, and they work their way off of that narrow path enough to where they either end up in the same old pen, living where they always were, or reprobate minds, the rancher ends up deciding that, tried, and this cow's completely turned its back on me over and over and over. It's not working on the plan. Maybe I need to focus on the others a little bit more and not that one. And it ends up at the packing plant or sold.
Yeah. Luckily, God's got a little bit more grace than us folks do with some bad cattle. But
yeah, we do, yeah.
But no,
there's a lot more mercy. But the analogy
is absolutely spot on, 100%.
I thought about it when we were in there, man, because all they're wanting to do is get out of them pens.
Yeah.
That they got to walk to get to where they need to go to live the best and healthiest life, regardless of how you feel about animal rights, ranching, whatever this is. Just the facts of agriculture. We both have agricultural degrees. The facts of agriculture is the healthiest thing for that cow to do is to go down that narrow path into that chute and eventually end up where they're supposed to end up.
Mm-hmm.
In greener pastures.
Yeah. Dang. That was I think that the nail's the head, man. You hit the nail on the head. Sorry. Nail's the head.
Yeah, I got you flustered over there, big dog. No, yeah.
But it's so true though. I mean, with literally every bit of it, man. I mean, I don't know.
It hit me hard because it's like I spend so much time, the same thing you do, like, right, living in the negative of, man, like, how in the world, if I've got to take myself and put myself through this narrow gate, and that's the path I've got to walk to get to where I want to go, I might as well give up.
Then nah, I ain't gonna be about it.
Yeah, ain't no reason to ever try to get there because we ain't gonna make it.
Yeah.
But perspective like this and understanding that there's a little bit more going on.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit more behind the scenes that my bullhead can't comprehend.
Yeah.
I
think it's apparent in so many different things too. So
yeah.
I don't know. Like it's just easy to recognize it in one aspect or area of our life, and then you key in on it. And you're like, okay, perfect. We're gonna start working on this, and then 2-3 days, maybe weeks or months later, it's like, dang. Though I got through that specific thing, here it is over here.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
And I guarantee, it's going to be a never-ending cycle of just continual progress and work. I mean, as it should be, right? It's never going to be easy.
For sure.
Because if it is easy, then you're not making any progress, and you're probably going to be complacent at some point. Right?
Well, yeah, it's like climbing that hill.
Absolutely. And so just being able to realize it, right, and just have patience through all that and be persistent in everything that we do. So
yeah, no, man, I 100% agree. And not to backtrack on us a little bit, just to touch on the golden rule right quick, man. There in verse 12, talking about do to others whatever you would like them to do to you. This is the essence of all that is taught in the law and the prophets. And then jumping over to Galatians chapter 5, verse 14, for the whole law can be summed up in this one commandment: love your neighbors as yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's, to me, that just, it makes sense. Right.
It makes sense, especially whenever you're just surrounded by, or whenever you're in the situations that we were this past weekend, or that maybe Ashley was part of out there at Outlaw 100, right? Whenever, folks are out there just loving each other, giving each other grace, understanding that there's so much more out there than just what they have going on. It just makes that experience, I mean, just that much better, and just an impactful moment.
Yeah.
So.
Oh man, exactly, and push back up into the tree and its fruit over verse like 17. Man,
Talk to me on that one. What you got? I'm curious.
Man, I think there's a lot that can be said for this. You know, starting in verse 15. Beware of false prophets who come to disguise as harmless sheep, but are really vicious wolves. You can identify them by their fruit, that is, by the way they act. Can you pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Talk about making sense in the golden rule, but this is common sense, man. It's so much easier and simple here just looking at it, because, you know, we get tied up in these relationships in life, and we get these friendships or these things that we don't want to let go of, right? Because it's what we've known. It's where we're comfortable.
Yeah.
And we have this skewed perception of people a lot of times that, no, this is a good guy. This is a good guy, man. I can hang out with him. Yeah, sure, he makes some choices that I might not agree with, but he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Man, that's my brother. I'm going to stick around with him. We've been together since we were in middle school. Man, I can't turn my back on him. But when you really stop and reflect, the common sense part of this is, what is the sum of his actions?
Mm-hmm.
What is the outcome? What is he left with? What is the fruit of his labor whenever he's making the decisions, living the life that he's living? What does his life show?
Mm-hmm.
Is it good fruit? Is it positivity? Is it things that are going to serve you, or are you just blind and letting yourself be caught up in this relationship that you've been a part of for so long?
Yeah.
Right? So that's where it's common sense is if we step away from the emotions, if we step away from all the things that are drawing on us as humans here on earth. Don't get me wrong, it's important to be emotional, and it's important to handle things in certain ways that respect other people's emotions. We're trying to treat people how people want to be treated. But as a respectful place, telling that person that relationship is not serving for either one of y'all, because common sense shows that the inputs and the energy that you're having to put in aren't bearing fruit that are serving you or feeding you or sustaining you, right? So to me, it's a lot of common sense there, where it's like you identify people by their actions and by what those actions produce.
Man, I really love that you brought that up in that fashion, just because, like, you know, for me, you know, I've lived literally all over Texas, like literally all over Texas.
Yes.
For those that don't know, I think there's 11 to 13 towns off the top of my head. I can't recall the exact number right now, but a lot, right? I think it's 11 schools from K through 12 or whatever, right? And so, you know, through that journey and you know, looking back at college and the friends that we had back then, and even, you know, some people I've met recently, right? It's also realizing that I guess it's more so than just realizing, but also accepting that just like the seasons of different areas that you're developing in your life, people are also in your life for different seasons. And just because you had such a close-knit relationship at one point doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be like that for forever.
That's true. And
at times it's hard to truly accept that. But if you're going through and you're continuing to progress and do everything that you can on your end, and, you know, if you're trying to help that person, then great. But if they don't want to be apt to it and they're going to continue doing their own thing, you know, hey, maybe it's the end of that season or that friendship. It's not necessarily a bad thing whatsoever. I mean, it's all perspective, right?
It is.
But I don't know, man. While you're going through all that, it was just something that came to mind, and just realizing, and it's something that I've been pondering on for a while, is like, just like everything else, you also have seasons where individuals are brought into your life for a specific reason, and then maybe for a specific reason, they're no longer there. And it's not a bad thing, but it's just accepting that as well.
Yeah. I think that another side of that is to note that that's not always easy, right?
No, absolutely not.
Sometimes that sucks.
So much easier said than done.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've had the pleasure of getting to meet hundreds of people all across Texas, due to, my background and everything else. But, in all those years, I've had some super close friendships that, not intentionally, but they do die off. Right. And there has been some in the past where very intentionally I had to cut it off for whatever reason. Right.
For sure.
And it's always easier said than done, but if there is no good fruit there and you can acknowledge that, then, it's going to tie back into what we were talking about last time. Like, if you don't have to spend energy on that. You don't have to be anxious about this friendship or whatever it may look like. Like, you can remove that from your life, and you have the power to remove that from your life.
Yeah.
A lot of things too is like, there's so many people out there, this is going down a tangent, but like, there's something going wrong in their life, and I've been this guy and before, where it's like, dang, this sucks. I'm going to talk to a bunch of people about it, but I'm not going to go physically do anything to change it. And so at the end of the day, you are the reason that you are still stuck in that same situation, because you don't have the courage to do what you know that you need to. And I've been there so many times.
Sure. Yeah.
But, it's just making that decision. No, it's not easy. Whether it's moving on through a certain situation, losing a friend, or gaining new ones, right? I mean, you just got to have faith in that process, but you also got to have the discernment that's needed to realize what is good and what isn't good.
Yeah. I think that was beautifully said. And yeah, I can recall a lot of situations where this is not a fun thing to deal with, but it is walking the path towards the narrow gate, right?
Yeah.
It's not easy, but it is going to be worth it whenever you're looking back and you're where you want to be.
Yeah. I think, that ties right into the next section of foundation builders, right?
There's one more section I want to touch on before that.
Oop, did I skip a step?
You're
yes,
good.
I did.
You're good. Man, this is actually touted as one of the scariest Bible verses for a lot of people. This is talking about true disciples there in chapter 7. And it says, "Not everyone who calls out to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven. Only those who actually do the will of my Father in heaven will enter. On judgment day, many will say to me, 'Lord, Lord, we prophesied in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and performed many miracles in your name.' But I will reply, 'I never knew you. Get away from me, you who break God's laws.'"
Why do you think that's so scary for so many people?
So many people are scared of that because it almost portrays, when read just at face value, it almost portrays that nothing we do here on this earth will be good enough to be accepted into the kingdom of heaven. There's a lot of people that think that man, but prophesizing for the Lord and casting out demons, all these things, that's more than I'm doing right now. So if somebody that's doing that can't get into heaven, how in the world do I have a chance of walking that narrow path and making it through the pearly gates? And there's so many people that get wrapped up in that. And honestly, I don't know about completely losing faith in Christianity or their faith in Jesus, but it definitely trips a lot of people up. I've watched so many studies over it. I dove into this because it tripped me up a little bit when I read it, to be honest with you. Right?
Interesting.
But
So for me, I feel like it's a question of the posture of your heart.
exactly, yes. Good.
Because it's what can I get out of this relationship with God, which then in turn means you're in it for selfish reasons, and you probably didn't truly have a relationship with God compared to what all can I give in this relationship.
Agreed.
And then letting the fruit of that be what it may. You know what I mean?
I think that.
It's like, go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead. Come on.
I'm trying to still wrap my head around it, but
No, you're good, brother.
for me, I don't know. It's just truly just a posture of your heart. I mean, are you in it for selfish reasons, or are you in it for the bigger reason, which isn't you? It's not me. It's everybody around us. It's the community that we're in. It's the folks that we surround ourselves with, and even more so, it's the guy that we ignore because he looks a little weird walking down the sidewalk. It's that person that continues to strike a nerve with us at work. It's whatever else, fill in the blank. You know what I mean? There's so much more to it than just what can I get out of this relationship? Because if you're in it for that reason, then you're missing the whole point.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's exactly right. And I think whenever you start to look at this sentence in verse 22, and it says, "On judgment day many will say to me, Lord, Lord, we prophesied in your name and cast out demons in your name and performed many miracles in your name." I think it gives that away right there, because we can just as soon be replaced with I. And where is that focused? It's focused on the actions. It's focused on what I did down here on this earth. I've done these things. I've taken care of this. I've worked hard for you.
It's entitlement.
It's entitlement.
And you're not entitled to nothing.
You're not. And you're focusing on self, and you're focusing on the righteousness of that, self-righteousness, right?
Yeah.
Rather than the glory of God,
Mm-hmm.
the relationship with Jesus. And it's really easy to slip into the fact that we're claiming to be good Christians, we're following the principles, but we're those Pharisees, because at the end of the day, we don't have that relationship with Christ. We didn't have the conversations. We weren't intimately involved with our Lord, right? And that requires openness. It requires honesty. It requires truth. It requires humbling ourselves before God. It requires dying to ourselves and picking up our cross daily. And that's something that we often lose sight of. At least I know I do. Mm-hmm. And that was an area for work with me. So whenever I say that it did strike me a little bit, and it was like, man, how in the world could I do this? It also gave me a little bit of inspiration, because it's like, man, that's pointing out something I struggle with.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I just thought that was a really, really important one. And with that, we can dive into the foundations on that to close out chapter 7 as well, brother.
Yeah, man. I mean, it all ties together, right?
It does.
I find it comical because all the houses around here are built around sand.
We don't have too much.
We're back in 7IL, man.
Oh, gosh, man. We don't have too much crazy weather, though, so we're okay-ish, right? It's a balance.
It's just something that I was like, that's kind of funny.
It is, yeah. I thought about that, too.
Considering we're also in Devine,
Texas.
But yeah, man. I mean, obviously it's an analogy for those that build. Where are you placing your faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you building it upon the rock, which is Scripture, which is the relationship with God and Jesus, right? Or are you placing it in fallible things that are materialistic or idolization within, you know, what we have here on earth.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, it's at the end of the day, one is going to sustain you through eternity. And one is, though it's hard to see and grasp, one is very, it's like momentary, I guess.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly right. And talking about that too, and the analogy of the house, I mean, it paints that picture so beautifully of the foundation is the gospel. It's the laws of Jesus and God. And it's these things that we should morally structure ourselves around and our lives around and work within, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a path. It's a narrow path,
Yeah.
right? It's that path that guides us in the direction we're supposed to go, and the one that we fall short of so often. But as long as we're living with that, and that's where we're rooted in, and that's where we're making our decisions and pushing ourselves down the path that we're needing to head to glorify Christ, that is the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
We're anchored to something. Looking deeper into this, you know, verse 27 there says, when the rains and floods come and the winds beat against that house, it will collapse with a mighty crash. That's talking about the unstable foundation. But the reason I brought that in is because it says when. It doesn't say if. It says when.
Mm-hmm.
Life is going to kick our butts.
It's going to knock you down.
The winds are coming.
It's going to drag you.
You're going to round the corner in a 4 or an 8 hour race, and you're going to see a massive hill in front of you. You're going to roll your ankle coming down said hill. You're going to have a washer go out. You're going to have a death in the family. You're going to have layoffs and loss of career. You're going to have friends that you lose. You're going to have all these things that are winds and storms and rain and things tearing at the very foundation of how you live your life, at the morals you walk this path with. It's going to give you every reason to step off of it, to find some coping mechanism, to find something other than where you should be walking because it feels more comfortable. It's easier, right? But as long as you're rooted in that foundation and you're maintaining it and you're living that and you're trying to operate out of that point, it's not if, it's when those things come.
Yeah.
You will be okay. You
Yep.
will survive. Your house will remain.
I think another perspective too, brother, is like, you know, our identity, right? We place a lot of emphasis on fitness, being a runner, being a lifter, you know, being a leader at work.
Yeah.
You know, a bunch of it is just what we do. You know, we place our identity in those things. But all it takes is a bad accident, a bad fall, you know, something so easy to take that away. And then we lose ourselves, right? But if you place your identity in this, then who you are stands firm because it can't be taken away.
Yeah, and
it can't be washed away in the floods.
Yeah, in a fall, like I know you meant like you could never be able to lift or run again.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of what you're talking about too. But I mean, a fall can look as something as a bad decision that completely disrupts and destroys your life.
Yeah.
Changes your reputation, changes what everyone thinks about you. It could be a financial decision that completely wrecks your finances, and now you're in a huge amount of debt and holding in your hand something that's not worth what you thought it was. So yeah, I agree. It can completely change your circumstances, and in those times you feel so less valuable than you truly are. You feel like, trash. You feel like you're worthless.
Yeah.
But if you're rooted in something like this and you understand God's love and the value that He places on us, and you truly take the Gospels, and we're going to get there eventually, but But he gives his only son to come down and sacrifice and suffer and be nailed to a cross and live among sinners and live among people just like you and I.
Mm-hmm.
He does all of these things because he loves us. Because he understands that we're made in his image and that we're made to walk this path and we're made to go through the narrow gate that is challenging, but it's made for us,
Mm-hmm.
right? And to me, that's absolutely right. We can't forget about our self-worth, and we gotta loving your neighbors as you love yourself implies that you have to love yourself too, right? And value yourself and move through this. I do love that example that you laid out, dude. That's awesome. And
I think that's what it comes back to, man. I mean, we gotta continue progressing and building this relationship with God, developing our love with him, through him, for ourselves and for others, right? And it's a journey, to say the least. You know, we're going to have valleys, we're going to have mountains. We're going to have some dang good times in between it, right?
yes, sir.
But just like our runs, just like training, just like friendships and everything else we do, if you're patient, if you are persistent, and you know you're present and you're deliberate, I mean, that'll be what it's meant to be.
I think that is a beautiful way to sum up chapter 7.
Yeah. So.
You hit the nail on the head.
Well, man, this has been a journey. I've been loving it.
Yeah.
And I still, I mean, even then, man, we're diving into it, and I still feel like it's not enough, right? Like, it's something that we were talking about the other day, where it's like we see our faults because we know where our faults lay.
Oh yeah.
Right. And at times it's hard to navigate through that because you don't know where to draw that line with yourself. But just in that same breath, you know, the grace I think that we give others pretty freely at times, I mean, we just need to make sure that we're giving it to ourselves too. It's something that I've been working on. So
I get that, and
that perfectionist coming out.
oh yeah, better watch out, buddy. No, I agree, brother. I think so, and I think that I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm my own worst critic. I'm as hard as I can be on myself all the time, and man, I can tell you every low point that I've found in life, and every spot where I found myself in depression. I mean, not to go too deep into things, but even like close to suicidal at times. I mean, every time I found myself in one of those positions, it was because of the judgment that I had upon myself, and how hard I was on myself, and how I wanted everything to be so good and so right, and I had this standard that for myself that was just, it's impossible to live.
Yeah.
And I agree, dude. I think we got to show some grace, and I've really enjoyed this journey because it's taught me that in a lot of ways. And
yeah, I mean, we gotta build our house on that rock.
Yes, sir. And
that's all it is.
That's right. Well,
so,
I've enjoyed it, brother.
Yeah, brother, it's a dang good one, man. Again, folks, if you got anything from this, please go out there, share the show. You know, let us know how this is affecting you too. You know, Chance and I were going through this together, but we're going through this with y'all too, and we're looking for that engagement. We're looking for, you know, that feedback from y'all, and we want to be part of y'all's journey. We want to be part of y'all's training, y'all's lives, and everything else just as much So whatever you're getting from it, let us know. Ain't no
Yeah.
big thing, and we're here for you, whatever it is.
Yeah, please, like Lane said, please let us know. I mean, if you're somebody that's more adept with all of this and have a deeper understanding, and we're skewed in some way, and we say something that doesn't fully align with the way it's supposed to align. I mean, we're human. We study hard for this stuff and try to understand it because we want to know for our own sake, and we want to make sure we're teaching the right stuff too to other people that are learning this with us. So if you got something, leave it in the comments. Shoot us a DM. Let us know. We're about it.
Absolutely.
We're definitely not too high and mighty to be critiqued.
No, bring it on. But other than that, y'all get out there. Don't be afraid. Go lead the way, and always be prepared for whatever is
Next in line.
Adios, folks.